Hello, y'all. This is uh, Knights of Cybertron, and I want to talk about the Transformers fandom as a whole. I want to talk about G1 fanboys, Bayverse fanboys, and other fanboys that's in the fandom. You know, and I just wanted to talk about my opinion about the Transformers fandom, and I just want to say that it is a lot of hate in the Transformers fandom. You know, and it seems like it's conflict between Bayverse fans and G1 fans. And the crazy thing is, G1 fans are saying that the Bayverse fans are toxic. And I don't know. I have to say that, in my opinion, and this is coming from somebody who grew up watching G1, who also grew up seeing the G1 1986 animated movie. You know, I'm a G1 fan, but as time went by, I learned to appreciate other versions of Transformers. I learned to appreciate Beast Wars for being different from G1, and I appreciate G1 for being different from other versions of Transformers. And I have to say, I am a huge fan of the Transformers live action movies as well. I'm a Bayverse fan, but I'm also a G1 fan. And I have to say, my two favorite versions of Transformers will be the Bayverse and G1. And I just want to talk about the conflict between the two, Bayverse fans and G1 fans. And I'm going to talk about G1 fans first. And I just want to say that, I think the reason why they complain about the Bayverse fans and they complain about the Bayverse movies is that they're different. They don't, they don't, they want the Transformers movies to be G1 ish. They want the robots to be blocky. They want every character to look like how they look in a cartoon. When it comes to the designs, the blocky designs, the off mode, the blocky truck, the square face truck, Bumblebee having the Beetle, you know, having the Volkswagen form, and I just have to say, Megatron transforming into a gun. And in some ways I can understand. I get that they they want the Transformers to look how they remember them. But at the same time, I think the problem with G1 fans is that they don't appreciate change, And me, who is a fan of both, I am a huge G1 fan, but I'm also a huge fan of the Bayverse. And to me, when I seen the Bayverse, I appreciate it for what it was. I was okay seeing Transformers, the live action movies for what they were. I was happy that they took something that was a cartoon, which originally was a comic book at first, and they brought it to life. And I'm one of those fans that appreciate different versions of Transformers, no matter what version of Transformers it is. If it's Beast Wars, if it's you know, if it's any version of Transformers there is. And I just have to say that, um, in my opinion, just and this is a person that loves the Bayverse as well. I came across those G1 fanboys myself, because I am a G1 fanboy myself as well. But in my opinion, I felt like in the beginning, soon the Bayverse movies came out, it seemed like they were toxic. And at the beginning, they were very toxic, they were very negative. And I'm not saying all G1 fanboys, but there are a certain percentage of them within the fandom that were very toxic and very hateful towards the Bayverse. And I feel like, I think the reason why it's conflict between the two is because the Bayverse fans feel that the G1 fanboys don't appreciate the Bayverse. And in my opinion, I'm going to have to side with the Bayverse because they are right. Because they don't appreciate the live action movies for what they are. They don't appreciate what Michael Bay did for the franchise. They don't appreciate what Steven Spielberg did for the franchise. It seems like all they do is complain, and they just negative. They don't want to say nothing positive about the movies. They just want to bring up things negative. And I'm not talking about every G1 fanboy, and I'm not just saying it's just G1 fans. It's just fans in the the fandom is just toxic. You just have certain percentage of fans. It's a certain section of fans within the fandom that's toxic. And in my opinion, no matter what fan you are, if you're a Bayverse fan, G1 fan, whatever it is, anybody can be toxic. And I can agree with that. Anybody, no matter what version of Transformers you are, you can be toxic. And I just feel like we got to stop being toxic towards each other, because the Transformers fandom is divided, and the hate the hate has to stop. You know. And in my opinion, I will always appreciate the Bayverse for what it is. And to me, they will always be great movies. And I will have to say they are very underrated. They get way too much hate and way too much criticism. And some people, in my opinion, like, I get not everybody's a fan of the Bayverse. Some people may prefer G1. You know, they may prefer Beast Wars, and that's cool. And at the end of the day, the G1 fanboys pretty much are getting their movies now. With this reboot, the Bumblebee movie was pretty much their movie, with the blocky designs, the old school designs, the original designs. And then you have the next movie that's coming out, which is supposed to be a combination of G1 and Beast Wars, which is Rise of the Beast. I think it's Transformers Rise of the Beast. And it's supposed to be them introducing the Beast Wars Transformers. So I think that's cool. But in my opinion, I really love the Bayverse for what it was. And I love G1 for what it was. But in my opinion, the reason why I prefer the Bayverse over the G1 Transformers, like as far as their designs and when it comes to them being in the live action movies, is because the Bayverse designs look more realistic. They look more believable. Where in Bumblebee, where we first get our first glance of the G1 designs, the blocky designs, to me, like, I feel like on Earth, the G1 designs just don't look realistic. They look too animated. They look too cartoonish. Now, I feel like the G1 designs would probably be perfect for a movie that just takes place on Cybertron, which that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. But I feel like the Bayverse designs are perfect for if you're going to have the Transformers on Earth interacting with humans. That's just my opinion. Some people may get offended and mad, but that's just my opinion. And I do love the Bayverse designs, and I love the G1 designs too, but I just feel like with, you know, like at the end of the day, everybody has their favorite designs. Some people prefer the G1 designs. Some people prefer the Beast Wars designs. Like, there's nothing wrong in having your own favorite version of Transformers. And to me, as a fan, I agree. There is a lot of toxicity within the community, within the Transformers fandom as a whole. And I think the difference between fans like me is that I can appreciate different versions of Transformers. Beast Wars was different, and I appreciate it for what it was. I'm glad it wasn't like G1. The Bayverse, I'm glad they didn't make it too much like G1. They made their own designs, and those designs work, in my opinion. Those designs felt more realistic. And I don't care what nobody say. The Bayverse will always be Transformers in my book. I don't care what the haters say. I don't care what the critics say. I will always have a special... The Bayverse Transformers will always have a special place in my heart. Now, Bumblebee was my least favorite movie out of the live-action movies. Which that's just my opinion. Because I just didn't enjoy it as much as the previous 5 movies. Like, to me, I felt like The Last Night was definitely a way better movie than Bumblebee, which that's just my opinion. I feel like the previous five movies was way better than Bumblebee. Now, I'm not sitting there saying the Bumblebee movie was terrible. It was okay, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And I guess, in my opinion, I just felt like the blocky designs, the G1 designs, just didn't work for me because they just looked too animated. Now, the parts when they were on Cybertron, they looked it fine. Like those, the beginning, the opening cutscene looks amazing, you know. And I feel like the G1 designs are perfect for just doing a Cybertron movie. But if you having them on Earth interacting with humans with those designs, which is just my opinion, I hear other fans say the same thing. They just don't look right. They don't look believable. Where in the Bayverse, like if you go back and watch the first Transformers movie, or even if you go back and watch Transformers The Last Night, the robots didn't look animated. They look realistic. They look more believable. And I was okay with humans being in a movie. I think one of the biggest complaints about the Bayverse is people said that it was too many humans in a movie. And to me, I was okay with the humans being in a movie because the movies wasn't taking place on Cybertron. They were taking place mostly on Earth. So it makes sense to have humans in a movie just as much as Transformers, you know, and I don't get the hate. I don't get why people complain about the movie so much, and I just feel like it needs to stop. It's ridiculous, and me as a Bayverse fan, I am a G1 fan, but I can understand why the Bayverse fans feel the way they do, because they feel that the G1 fanboys, they feel like they never appreciated the live action movies for what they were. And I think that's why they are so mad and why they are frustrated. And I'm not just saying G1 fanboys the only ones to blame. Like, okay, there's hate on both sides of the spectrum. There's toxicity. There's a lot of toxic on both sides of the spectrum. But I feel like, in my opinion, the G1 fanboys have to realize that just because something isn't G1, it isn't a bad thing, And those fans will give cartoons like Beast Wars a pass. They will give Transformers Prime a pass. But they won't give the live action movies, they won't give the Bayverse movies a pass, which I feel like it is very hypocritical on their part. But I am a G1 fanboy as well, and I appreciate G1 for what it was. And I just don't want, and to me, as a Bayverse fan as well, I appreciate the Bayverse for what it was too. It was different from G1, and I accepted it, and I just think that you have a lot of fans nowadays that don't accept it for what it is. They just want to continue being so negative and hateful towards the movies, and I remember, what's his name? Josh Duhamel, the guy that played Agent Simmons in the movie. Not Agent Simmons, but he plays Major Lennox in the movie. He wrote in an article that Michael Bay doesn't get any credit for his work, and I have to say I agree. I feel like Michael Bay doesn't get credit for his work. I don't, and I just same thing with Steven Spielberg. Like, in my opinion, they did a magnificent job bringing the Transformers characters to life on a big screen, and I just think they did an amazing job with the story of the movies. And to me, I love the Bayverse. I agree the movies are not perfect, they have their flaws, but let's be real, G1 wasn't perfect as well. They made a lot of mistakes as well. So, let's just be real. G1 isn't perfect. The Bayverse isn't perfect either. No movie is perfect. Every movie has its flaws and has its problems. But I think, to be realistic, okay, it's good to look at things at its flaws as well, but it's also important to look at it from a positive standpoint. Okay, you fixated on the flaws, G1 fanboys, but did you ever consider looking at the positives? And I'm not just saying every G1 fanboy think this way, but do you ever consider looking at the good things about the Bayverse instead of just picking it apart and saying everything's bad and everything's terrible, you know? And I just wanted to make this video because I just want to get it off my chest. I'm just tired of the hate between the fandom. And to me, I will always be a G1 fanboy, but at the same time, I will always be a Bayverse fanboy. And I love both versions. Both versions